Previously on I Love Talking Survivor.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable. You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
No.
BL. Why's the BL?
Is it inconceivable?
Let's spell it out for me.
I don't know how to spell it.
I don't either.
Jonathan and Joe, wow.
All right, Pinhead, your time is up.
Who you calling Pinhead?
What is wrong with you? I thought you had like 2 brain cells to rub together. I wouldn't have been working with you. I would not have tied my cart to a idiot. What did you do that for?
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
There were things I was looking forward to doing, seeing the stars. The stars out here are amazing. And I literally feel like when you're on that island looking at the stars, like you're closer to heaven. Every shooting star, you feel like that's for... You feel like it's for you, that it's from someone. Maybe it's your loved ones back home, maybe it's people you've lost, maybe it's people that you never even met, but they're up there and they care about you. And it's just not something I've ever been able to find anywhere except here in Fiji.
I kind of love when people cry and they get that squeaky voice. Rizzo is S tier squeaky cry voice. But Devin's had a good one there too. I feel like normally when I cry when I'm public speaking, I just kind of like stop and then I try to get through it. But I'm like, these people just keep squeaking through. I kind of think it's funny. Is that bad? Is that terrible? Is that bad? I don't know. I broke down the challenge of... I'm going to bring in the mic. I broke down the challenge of inconceivable over here. So if you're watching the video, I took a look at the replay that they showed us that showed us the words on the front, and then they turn around and show us the words on the back. And I wanted to see how far off Joe and Jonathan were. And this is actually, even breaking it down here, I mean, I do have a smooth brain. I'm not a smart man. I've had a whole week full of not smart moments as I renovate a house. And so if you've been reaching out to me either personally or to text about Survivor and I have not responded to you, I have been just trying to figure out how to renovate a house. And so that combined with losing Sari and Devins, I think has just kind of made wanting to do this podcast, just trying to get here and get going. But even this final 5 that we have, I'm just sort of like, it feels like the wind has kind of been sucked out of season 50 in some ways. I don't know, but we'll unpack that. The challenge, inconceivable, frontwards and backwards on the backside. This was tricky, man. Jonathan, I think, just had to switch 3 blocks, like identical 3 blocks, like you and you switch, you and you switch, and then we would get there. Joe had a much more complex path to getting the backside of his puzzle to match, where it was he switches the first block with the 6th block, the 6th block with the last block, the 5th block, like that kind of thing. Oh, wait, is that... Now that I'm looking at it, it actually might not be that complicated. Okay, never mind. I'm actually... Yeah, my arrows are pointing twice to the same spot here. It's been a week, man. It's been a week. But it really made me appreciate how quickly Tiffany got it. And then her celebration got me so hyped. I love a good, let's go! Let's go! I love a good let's go, man. And she had a good one. Let me make sure I'm recording everything right here. So this is a heartbreaking episode in a lot of ways. To lose Devins and Sari in the same week and lose Ozzy last week really is heartbreaking, man. And so, yeah, Rick, a lot of emotions with him all season. It reminds me of one of my best friends that I have, James Valle. He doesn't really listen to this podcast. Not a big Survivor fan. But James and I have been friends since, I think, 7th grade. And when he first met me, he didn't like me because we shared this algebra class together, and I was picking on one of our friends, and yeah, just kind of teasing him and stuff. And I'm not a good hang when it comes to like, I want to get algebra done. I want to be a good student and I want to get algebra done. In 7th grade, I was not a good hang. And you probably would have told me, no, this is not a guy I want to sit next to. But Friday night comes, and all the kids are hanging out at the movie theater. We're going to Jack in the Box afterwards. I'm a pretty good hang then. You want to be sitting at my booth at Jack in the Box in 7th grade, hanging out afterwards. And if you're not sitting in my booth, you're looking over at my booth wondering, man, I wish I was over there. That's kind of how I feel about Devins. Because as a player, when he's doing all of his juggling and he's doing all of his dancing, I don't love it. I don't love watching it. It was just sort of, I think my wife taught me this phrase. Sorry if I'm using it wrong. Pick me girl. Is that a phrase that people use? I don't know. It's just sort of like it's giving pick me girl. Clock it. Clock it. Anytime I use that phrase, my daughter gets so mad at me. When I say, Ren, clock it, or period, she says, you can't use that! And she makes up some other phrase I'm allowed to use. But it's giving pick me girl, I think. Maybe. I don't really know what that means. And so Rick as a player, but I'm wondering if Rick is sort of being set up as the future host of Survivor. And when it comes to that, now we're looking at Friday nights. Now I don't really mind it. Because Rick obviously has experience with sort of like being in front of the camera, with having the role in entertainment, like that kind of stuff. And then on being on season 50, he's getting more exposure to that stuff beyond just sort of local news or whatever. But I mean, he's a funny guy. But what I love what he brings is the energy and the positivity. And they have a scene of him talking about that with Joe where he's just kind of like, man, I'm always hopeful. I'm always just like, I don't want to ever be somebody who's not hopeful. And that is the new era. I think that is the new era in a lot of ways. And if Rick is the future host of Survivor and he brings that energy, that's something I'd be pretty satisfied with. And I'd be pretty happy about seeing. And so I hope we get sort of this future Rick run up to maybe in 10, 12 years, he becomes the host. I wouldn't hate that, man. I really wouldn't. He was supposed to be, I don't know how many people know this, but on season 40, before the pandy hit, we were supposed to get a season where Rick Devins was at a trading post, like a NPC character in some video game. And you remember these fire tokens that they had, I think in season 40, maybe 41. I was definitely in 40. No, maybe it's like 39. I don't know. But you had these fire tokens, and you could bring your fire tokens to this trading post to Rick Devins to then buy something. And so Rick was supposed to be the guy at that. And so he was going to kind of be like a co-host in a way. Another person, another third party like on the island besides Jeff. Jeff talked to Mike White about this idea during the pandemic, and Mike White was like, that's a horrible idea. Don't do that. And so they pivoted to something else. But the door is already open for Rick to sort of have a influence within the game beyond just as a player. I don't see him becoming any kind of showrunner like Jeff Probst currently is. I imagine Jeff would stay on beyond his host time to be continue to be producer, showrunner, as well as they bring in some other help. But I don't know. I don't hate that idea. Let me know what you think about that. And then Cirie, I love this sort of like the pinhead moment where she's talking about Ozzy of like I thought you had two brain cells together. That why would I be working with you if I didn't think you could just do the most basic thing and not spill everything about our game? And I think that's a side of Cirie we don't get to see often. But Rob C. on his podcast says if Cirie is ever going to win at Survivor, if she, who knows if she's ever going to get to play again. But if she's ever going to win at Survivor, that part of her personality needs to show through more so that people don't have this mindset of like, everybody loves Cirie, right? That's the RFK Jonathan quote that we get.
I love Cirie, but I feel like that's a bad thing.
He was talking to D. Everyone loves Cirie. Everyone just falls in love with her. Well, give us a little bit more of this bitter, upset Cirie, a little bit more of this
Lord help me.
Yeah, right. The
Riz God. Okay?
Lord
help me.
Give us a little bit more of that. And then people are thinking, man, she's kind of she's got some rough edges. Maybe I'll be able to beat her. You're already good enough, Saria, getting people to think different things about you and tricking people into and deceiving them and weaving them into this spider web or whatever. Maybe that's something she needs to kind of put in her tool bag if she ever plays again. I don't know. Let me see what other thoughts I had on Saria here. So yeah, one of my favorite things that I was kind of thinking about. I didn't put too much weight into preseason stuff. I was pretty confused on why people were so interested in the preseason stuff. I just kind of wanted to see the season play out because I don't know how much weight we can put into that. But there's something that Christian said preseason that I've thought about a lot during this season, and it's sort of these categories that he put people in. As he kind of unpacks the categories, I think it should be a little bit more fluid than what he's giving it credit for. But there is this one thing that I wanted to kind of capture. I'm going to play that here for you.
Then you have this final category where Charlie lies, which are the favorites. These are the people who are there because they are most likely to be excellent winners.
Interesting.
So these are people, they have a lot of these characteristics, but frankly, they read as normal.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I mean,
certainly compared to people that are cast for comedy and commentary.
Exactly. By contrast, I mean, that's where Charlie fits. That's where Kyle fits. That's where Colby fits. Now, Colby just awoke from Survivor cryo sleep. I don't know how he'll do out here. I mean, you never know. But he's there because he's likable and normal in comparison. And for the women, I mean, that's where you get. That's where Dee falls into place. That's where Genevieve and frankly Saria. Those six are the favorites. I don't have a target list on this season, but insofar as one would exist, it is those six that they are in the way of winning.
I love what he's saying there because he's basically saying like there's a lot of people on this cast that are not normal people, and we're gonna stick out like sore thumbs in so many ways. And so his goal was like, if I'm getting rid of anybody, it's to get rid of the normal people so that by comparison, as the season progresses, like I don't look as big of a threat compared to some of these other people because they're just such huge personalities or huge challenge threats. And so you can kind of build a narrative to say you should get rid of this person because of X, Y, and Z, as opposed to like some of these more normal people. It's harder to sort of say like, hey, we need to get rid of this person. And so I think Saria, in a lot of ways, is a contrast to Aubrey. Aubrey has very intentionally, repeatedly said over the past episode or two that she is thinking about the final three. And I'm sure in a lot of ways Saria was thinking about the final three, but that's Saria's thoughts revolved so much around Ozzy and putting hope into him playing this game well and sort of I think honestly, like, has she been around since there's been so many major twists throughout a season, right? Now we get sort of a whirlwind all throughout as opposed to just one tribe swap at the very beginning and maybe one other unique thing. But it's like in this new era, there really is a constant change within the game, and you don't just get straight shooting Survivor at the final 9 or whatever like you used to get. Saria, I think, was kind of banking on just playing a straight up game with Ozzy and being able to just have conversations. And so when that went sideways, she wasn't able to kind of fall on other things. And so getting rid of Devins, I think, was punishing to her. Obviously, getting rid of Ozzy was too. But if you want to kind of keep somebody bigger in front of you, why do you get rid of Devins? You know? And like, yeah, I think she did a good job of not targeting Jonathan. Like, keep Jonathan and Devins around and let's just play heads up. Let's just beat them heads up. And so some of these middle people, been talked about all season, have kind of gotten through. And I think that's where Saria kind of got. Was not just, playing with some, keep a Charlie around. One of these guys who's going to be pretty killer late game. Keep a D around. Somebody who's going to be pretty killer late game. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to kind of swing that and ended up getting rid of some people that I think would have shielded her had she kept them around for longer. Aubrey's story has been very interesting to me. I haven't been shy about saying I think she's probably going to win. That seems kind of like what they're building up. And the reason I think that is because of this is what sends us into the intro for the entire episode last time is this confessional, or not, yeah, I guess it's a confessional from Aubrey in conversation with Jonathan.
On Survivor Go Wrong, I went to the very end of this game and I lost because I was sitting next to the wrong people, but I've learned my lesson.
You did perfectly.
This time, I'm ruthlessly focused on one thing, getting rid of every threat in this game. And that ember of fire inside of me is getting bigger. And now it feels like a flame, and it's go time now.
So is that something you give to open up your second to last episode? Is that something you give to somebody who's getting voted out that night? Is that a confessional you give? Do you give them an intro to the episode if they're getting voted out next episode? Like, it just kind of, so it reminds me of like when my wife reads these books. She loves these books, these the smutty books, you know those? Yeah, she loves the like ones that are like
look, you don't even know if I have on pants underneath this cute skirt.
She loves those.
The tribe was, looking at my ass.
I'm just playing. She doesn't read that. No, she loves these crime books, these like crime novels that like basically they're like kind of like a Law and Order SVU kind of thing, right? And whenever you watch Law and Order, if you've ever been forced to watch that, or maybe you're into it, maybe by the grace of God, he's giving you something that actually enjoys that show. And I'm sure there's a lot of Law and Order people that are saying the same thing about me and Survivor. But for some reason, if you watch that show and you enjoy it, 30-minute episode, right? Well, whoever is the main person, like the bad guy, is shown to you at minute 10, right? They go and they talk to the teacher, and he's like, "Yeah, I knew her. She was in my class. Oh yeah, she always did this." Okay, and then they kind of move on, and then we come on back, and Marissa Tomei or whatever her name is, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, the other detective, whatever, Starsky and Hutch come walking in, and you pervert, it was the teacher all along. And you knew that. You knew she would be, and we get all this. And that's repeat, ongoing, every single episode. Well, now I'm letting you know Aubrey's the pervert. Okay, maybe it doesn't translate that well. But you watch enough of these seasons, you start to kind of pick up on the storytelling in some ways. And so what can become really neat is when they change up the storytelling. But that just doesn't seem like something they would do for season 50. But maybe it is. But I'm really getting the feeling that, like, all right. And so I'm sorry to all the people that haven't watched hours and hours and decades of Law and Order or Survivor. But there becomes this sort of pattern. And I'm starting to kind of see that pattern with Aubrey. And so that's why I think that. This scene, if you go and watch this scene again where she's talking with Jonathan, they're walking over to the well. And Jonathan is taking up the entire path with his body, right? Just clearing the way. And Aubrey is just like trying to keep up with him as his whole body is taking up the camera frame. And every scene of Aubrey as they're walking to the water well is Jonathan walking. His chest is like showing through his Komodo or whatever he's got on. And then Aubrey's just getting slapped by leaves as she's trying to keep up with Jonathan in this conversation. And it's just sort of like, I think, building this like that was intentional. I think that was intentional that they chose these clips where every scene in this conversation, Aubrey is getting slapped by a bush and is just kind of like hiding behind Jonathan's biceps, is because her whole thing is like, I am better than I'm letting on to be. And you are going forward. You are the big threat. And this confessional right now is letting you know, like, I am taking out every threat. I think it'd be really cool. You have this confessional where she's saying that this ember is going to grow into a fire. Will she take him out at fire? Will she win immunity, put him in fire, and he'll lose to Joe or something like that? Something like that would be pretty cool and even better to watch back later on. But I just love this scene where she's getting just slapped by all these leaves and branches. Even it ends with like Jonathan puts out his fist to say, dude, you did so good, like, great job. He like puts out his fist to get a fist bump, and she doesn't even see it because it's so dark out there. And so he's just kind of like left hanging, and she just looks confused and like Aubrey. She just looks like a horse tranquilizer. So, we'll see how this final 3 hours goes. I was going to do a watch party. Maybe I'll set this up for 51. Let me put this call out there. If you know someplace where we could do a family-friendly watch party, not a 3-hour episode, right? Because I was thinking about doing it for the finale. 3 hours, man. That is a long time to try and get a sitter or something like that. But if you know someplace that's family-friendly where we might be able to host something like this, that's not just a house, because I'd like to invite people from all sorts of different communities to come and hang out and watch this thing. Let me know. Reach out to me. Let me know if you might have an event or a venue over, I'm talking, North Dallas kind of area so that a lot of people can come. But I was thinking about doing that, but this finale is 3 hours long, man. So buckle up, get ready for that. and we'll see how it goes. Something I want to kind of keep an eye on. You might remember this confessional from Rizzo.
With Chrissy coming after me, I chuckle because if we can look at the lore of what happens to people who take shots at me, they don't make it out alive.
We saw it kind of pay off with Chrissy, but it didn't really make sense. I'm wondering if we're going to get something
I'm annoyed
else.
because Rizzo still has an idol. And if you let somebody skate by with an idol, it's stupid. Devins right now, he's public enemy #1. So I want to use Devins as a smokescreen.
What's up, y'all?
Allow Rizzo to believe that Devins is the one going home and then blindside Rizzo and send him home with an idol.
Is that a little foreshadowing? Is Tiffany going to be heading home? You come at Rizzo, you go home? Is that what we're building up?
And now here's the listener of the week.
Thank you to Alex and JC for listening whenever you do. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for your support. Alex and JC have been huge supporters for me for 15 episodes now. It's crazy to think I'm on episode 15. But Alex and JC, they have been in our fantasy draft. They both lost players this week. Their final players. Their torch is snuffed. They are out of the league. I'm still rolling strong with 2 players. Kind of. Joe, you know, how confident can I be with Joe? And then Jonathan, competent. We also might be just getting Jonathan as a competent player this year because I think Jonathan's going to play a lot, man. I think he's going to be returning. I think he's kind of like the new era Aussie. And so we might honestly get 5 seasons out of Jonathan just because he's so enjoyable to watch. From a challenge perspective and maybe for other reasons for some of y'all based on your fan fiction that you've been sending me, unfortunately. All right, y'all. Thank you again for listening to this episode. Looking forward to the finale. Talk to you then. Bye.
Thank you for listening to my Daddy Survivor podcast. Got nothing for ya? Head back to camp. Love you. Bye.